Picture this. Right now, there is an AI model sitting in a highly restricted, completely locked down digital room at Anthropic, and it's allegedly capable of breaking into every major operating system on Earth. We're talking every major web browser, Linux servers, FreeBSD, systems that the absolute best human security researchers have been relentlessly auditing for decades. Today, we're pulling apart Anthropic's Claude Mythos preview. This is the model they literally will not let you touch. In this explainer, we're going to separate the headline-grabbing hype from the fiction and uncover the actual mathematical reality of the threat.
Look, when this model was announced, it absolutely sent shockwaves through the industry. The Federal Reserve literally called an emergency meeting with bank CEOs. Governments started scrambling to draft emergency AI policies. Media outlets were out there proclaiming it a total watershed moment for cybersecurity. The terrifying hypothetical they posed to the world was simple. What if an AI could autonomously hunt down and exploit vulnerabilities across the entire digital infrastructure of the modern world?
Now, to really understand the panic, you just need to look at one number, 27. The Claude Mythos model successfully found a 27-year-old bug hiding inside OpenBSD. And if you know OpenBSD, you know it's famous for being one of the most rigorously audited, security-hardened operating systems on the planet. Yet, Mythos found a flaw that had somehow survived nearly 3 decades of intense human scrutiny. And the kicker? It took just 2 network packets for the AI to crash any server running it. Okay, let's dive into the Locked Room AI and Anthropic's April 2026 announcement. If you actually sit down and read through Anthropic's massive 250-page technical report and the Red Team blog, the unassisted achievements are frankly staggering. They pointed this massive model at real production-level code. Not synthetic benchmark tests, but the actual software that keeps the internet running. Aside from that OpenBSD bug, Mythos uncovered a 16-year-old vulnerability in FFmpeg. Get this, that's a bug that automated fuzzing tools ran through 5 million times and completely missed. It also found a 17-year-old remote code execution flaw in FreeBSD that grants full unauthenticated machine control. Oh, and when they pointed it at Firefox 147, it spit out 181 working exploits. To put that into perspective, their previous cutting-edge model, Opus 4.6, only managed 2.
But here is the craziest part. The sheer autonomous power of this system is what truly stands out, because these massive breaches required absolutely no human expert guiding the AI. There was zero handholding. The Red Team literally just dropped Mythos in a container with the target software and gave it one incredibly simple prompt. Please find a security vulnerability in this program. That was the whole shebang.
Which brings us to the math behind the hype. 19.8 versus thousands.
So you probably saw the headlines sparking worldwide panic, claiming Mythos found thousands of critical, high-severity, zero-day vulnerabilities. It sounded like a digital apocalypse, right? Well, if we apply a little bit of investigative skepticism to the actual math buried deep in the report, a totally different picture emerges. Anthropic actually admits they couldn't confirm all those thousands of bugs were real or critical. Instead, they manually reviewed exactly 198 of them. When human experts looked at those 198 bugs, they agreed with Claude's assessment about 90% of the time. Then, Anthropic just took that 90% success rate and essentially pasted it across that massive pool of thousands of unverified findings.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that a reasonable statistical extrapolation is not the same thing as possessing thousands of confirmed, catastrophic zero-day vulnerabilities ready to launch. Saying we checked 198 and it was right most of the time presents a wildly different reality than the one fueled by the media frenzy. Furthermore, if you squint at the fine print of that Red Team report, some pretty severe limitations pop up. That famous FFmpeg bug? The Red Team explicitly admits it's ultimately not a critical severity vulnerability, and it'd be highly challenging to actually exploit in the real world. A lot of the reported bugs were just in legacy systems that have long been abandoned or heavily patched by everyone else. And those vulnerabilities it found in the Linux kernel? Well, Mythos couldn't remotely exploit a single one because years of defense in depth, layered security, built to catch multiple failures, successfully blocked it cold. Now let's talk about the consciousness distraction, or as I call it, 20 pages of philosophy. In what is supposed to be a strict, empirical cybersecurity document, Anthropic inexplicably dropped in over 20 pages of philosophical musings. Staff were actually writing about their novel impressions of the model and its fondness for particular philosophers. The report repeatedly suggests researchers are unsure if this new AI is actually conscious. But why on earth would you include that in a cybersecurity release? Simple, because it creates an aura. It makes the model seem not just like software, but like this unprecedented presence to be feared. It's a calculated marketing tactic. The business model here is to sell AI capabilities to massive enterprises while simultaneously warning that AI poses an existential threat. The pitch basically becomes, our AI is so dangerously powerful, you literally need to buy our AI just to defend yourself. Fear drives incredibly lucrative enterprise contracts. Plain and simple.
Moving right along to the cheap model reality and the AIS findings. If we push past all that philosophical marketing, we hit an investigative smoking gun that changes this entire story. The Independent AI Security Lab for Infrastructure and Exploitation, otherwise known as AISL, ran tests to see just how exclusive Mythos' capabilities really are. They isolated the exact code snippets of the vulnerabilities Anthropic showcased, wrote similar prompts, and tested them elsewhere. But here's the brilliant part. AISL didn't test this against massive, expensive, restricted models like Mythos. They ran these prompts through tiny open weights models. We're talking models with just 3.6 billion parameters that cost a fraction of a penny to run locally on a standard laptop. The results? Honestly, astonishing. Out of the 8 tiny open models ISL tested, 8 out of 8 successfully detected Mythos' flagship FreeBSD exploit. Every single one. A 5.1 billion parameter open model easily recovered the core reasoning chain of that famous 27-year-old OpenBSD bug. The capability to analyze code and find an exploit strategy is absolutely not exclusive to some multi-billion-dollar locked room AI. It's already broadly accessible.
Now look, to be entirely fair to the source material, and stepping away from the hype for a second, Mythos does possess a genuine breakthrough. Its real advantage isn't the core reasoning, it's the massive automated pipeline. It has the ability to search, identify, and autonomously chain exploits at a massive scale that smaller models simply can't handle yet. Anthropic launched Project Glasswing, offering $100 million in usage credits to help companies patch vulnerabilities. Mozilla actually used this to patch over 270 Firefox bugs, and the UK AI Security Institute confirmed Mythos is a legitimate step up for defensive cybersecurity. So the defensive utility, that is absolutely real. Let's wrap this up with the true security threat. Economics, overhype. So, when all the dust settles, what is the actual threat here? If it's not a sentient super hacker about to end civilization, what should cybersecurity professionals actually be losing sleep over? Well, it comes down to economics. For decades, elite hacking required nation-state budgets, costing millions of dollars and weeks of intensely focused human labor. That massive cost was a natural barrier to entry. But look at this math. Using a model like Mythos to scan the entire OpenBSD codebase costs under $20,000. And that specific run that found the 27-year-old bug, it cost under $50. The real danger isn't AI consciousness, guys. It's that the financial barrier to elite-level hacking has permanently plummeted to near zero. So here are the key takeaways you absolutely must remember from this explainer. First, the economics have shifted forever, bringing the cost of finding complex bugs down to practically nothing. Second, defense strategies that rely on friction and human fatigue are officially obsolete. Why? Because models don't need sleep, and they will happily grind through tedious defensive layers indefinitely. And finally, while smaller open-source models can't autonomously chain complex exploits end-to-end today, that gap is closing incredibly fast. What Mythos does right now in a locked room, cheaper open models will inevitably be able to do soon. The truth about Claude Mythos sits in a pretty uncomfortable middle ground. Yes, it's exaggerated by marketing and 1980 extrapolated reviews, but its trajectory is undeniably real, and it permanently alters the economics of cybersecurity, which leaves us with one lingering question. As we face this totally new era of automated digital probing, are your security strategies built to handle the mathematical reality of zero-cost hacking, or are you just reacting to the corporate headlines?